Alright guys, Boxing Day in the Championship did not disappoint. We're here today to digest all of the action and preview all the matches that are coming up on Friday. Games coming thick and fast right now, and as always, I want to get your verdict on these games in the comments down below. We will be talking through all the Boxing Day matches throughout today's video, but the primary focus will be on the upcoming matches. 300 likes on today's video would be massively appreciated. But without any further ado, let's jump in. Started now at St Mary's for Southampton up against Plymouth, and it was a great weekend for the Saints, wasn't it? A thumping win over Swansea, now 16 games unbeaten, leapfrogging Leeds in the process, and have to admit, looking like a really strong outfit to challenge for one of those automatic spots in this second half of the season. I think most people will see them as the favourites coming into this game as well against the Plymouth side, who haven't been great value on the road so far this season, albeit did pick up a point away from home on Boxing Day against Cardiff. It was Morgan Whittaker with a brace in that one to ensure Plymouth got at least 1 point from that game. It's now 16 goal contributions he's got so far this season. Absolutely superb in his individual campaign so far. Now Southampton are 16 games unbeaten as things stand. To put into context of just how good that is, last season only Burnley went on a longer unbeaten run like that throughout the entire season. Burnley went 22 games unbeaten during one stage of the season, so still a fair way to go for the Saints to go ahead and match that, but the way they're playing right now, I wouldn't put it past them. Score prediction for me in this game, I'm going to go 3-1 Southampton. Fancy them for another 3 points, but reckon Plymouth could get a goal. Next up, we head to St Andrews for Birmingham up against Bristol City, and here are two sides going in very different directions right now. Both sides who made somewhat surprising mid-season managerial changes, but both paying off very differently right now. It was another dreadful result for Blues on Boxing Day, and now means it's just 2 wins from 13 for Wayne Rooney. Contrast that to Liam Manning in at Bristol City. He's got them firing at the moment. A cracking result on Boxing Day as they put 4 goals past Watford. Now means he's got 4 wins from the 9 games he's been in charge of. What had been Bristol City's Achilles heel of late was their away form, but then they go and put in such a fantastic spirited away performance at Watford. Like how adaptable Bristol City can be at the moment as well. They can mix things up, can play with the ball, but they've also got it in them to mix it up a little bit, play on the counter, and I think that will favour them in these sort of away matches going forward. Score prediction for me in this one, I think I have to be favouring Bristol City. Going to go 2-1 Bristol City, which will make it 4 wins on the bounce for them. Next up, we head to Cardiff up against Leicester. It was a point for Cardiff on Boxing Day, playing out a 2-2 draw with Plymouth. This one will be difficult going up against the Leicester side, who did stretch their unbeaten run with that point against Ipswich. Probably a little bit disappointed not to have hung on for all 3 points, considering they conceded so late on, and that goal taking a couple of deflections on its way in. Was an interesting game overall though, I thought, Ipswich against Leicester. First half, you could definitely see Leicester's quality shining through. Mavididi with a fantastic strike to put the Foxes ahead. Second half didn't quite have that same zip to their performance, and you could tell that an Ipswich equaliser was brewing, and ultimately a point I don't think is that detrimental to Leicester. Still maintains their lead over Ipswich at 6 points right now, and I think many would still consider them to be the overwhelming favourites to go on and win the league this season. For me in this one, I think I can see Leicester getting back to winning ways, especially if they do step things up 5 or 10%. Score prediction for me in this one, I'm going to go 2-0 to the Foxes. Coventry against Swansea's next up, and this good run of form from Coventry continues. It was a great result for them on Boxing Day, 2-0 against Sheffield Wednesday, a result which leaves them just 3 points off the top 6. Is incredibly congested in that middle portion of the Championship right now, but just goes to show if you can string together a consistent run of results, you will continue to gradually climb the league table. It's now 5 unbeaten for Mark Robins' men, just 1 defeat from their last 9 matches. Sakamoto making the real difference for Coventry on Boxing Day. It was a lovely brace, the second goal especially, really well taken. I think most people will have Cov down as the favourites for this game as well. Not pretty from Swansea on Boxing Day, a 5-0 thumping against Southampton. I think the vast majority of us expected Swansea to get beat there, but yeah, in that sort of fashion, it doesn't exactly do your confidence the world of good. Still think that all of those sides in the bottom third of the Championship right now stand a chance of really being dragged into this relegation scrap in the second half of the season. Swansea aren't exempt from that. They will have been boosted by the fact that a lot of the other sides below them also dropped points on Boxing Day. Score prediction for this game though, I think I have to favour Coventry. Going to go 2-0 Cov in that game. Huddersfield up against Middlesbrough next up, and this is quite an interesting matchup. It was an absolutely cracking result and performance from Huddersfield on Boxing Day, putting 3 goals past Blackburn. Have to admit, didn't see that performance coming, but long may it continue for Darren Moore's men. Managed to put a bit of daylight between themselves and the bottom 3, obviously with QPR also losing, Sheff Wednesday getting beat as well. Overall, a really positive Boxing Day for Huddersfield. How do I see this game going though? Well, Middlesbrough definitely bring a unique threat into this one. It was a disappointing result for Borough on Boxing Day, a 1-0 loss against Rotherham, albeit some key decisions didn't go their way. Definitely could have and maybe should have had a penalty in that one, but ultimately they'll probably only have themselves to blame. Created more than enough to have won that game, but as has been their Achilles heel all season, just weren't clinical enough and in the end lost it to a bit of a freak goal by Rotherham. Score prediction in this one, I do fancy Borough to create quite a few chances again. It's just another question of whether or not they take them. Score prediction for me, I think I'm going for a draw, 1-1 between these two. Hull up against Blackburn. It's two sides looking to bounce back from disappointing results on Boxing Day. Hull's clash against Sunderland looked fairly close, not much to write home about in the first half. Second half is where the game really looked like it opened up, and when the game did become stretched, either side could have gone on to win that one. Hull having some nice opportunities in the second half, but ultimately it was Jack Clarke's quality for the away side which won it in the end. I do fancy Hull to have a decent chance of bouncing back in this one. It was arguably Blackburn's worst showing of the season on Boxing Day by the sounds of it. Away at Huddersfield, losing 3-0. Once again, some costly individual mistakes costing them at the back. And that defensive record, which has been a bit of a concern that we brought up a few times throughout the season, really rearing its head at the moment. 15 goals they've conceded now in their last 6 matches. And of those 6 matches, 5 of them have ended in defeat. Both sides could do with a result here. I think I give Hull a better chance of bouncing back between the two of them. Score prediction for me, going to go 2-1 to the Tigers, but could go either way. Next up we head to Ipswich up against QPR at Portman Road, and I think that Ipswich fans will definitely take that point they got against Leicester. Definitely step things up in the second half, and in the end I do think we're worthy of that point despite their equaliser coming incredibly late on and taking a couple of deflections along the way. I think this is a good opportunity for the Tractor Boys to get back to winning ways as well against the QPR side who has looked a little bit down of late, especially with the head-to-heads QPR have had with the sides around them and how those head-to-heads just haven't gone their way. Over the month of December they've played Plymouth, Sheffield Wednesday and Millwall and have taken just 1 point for a possible 9 against their fellow relegation rivals. Not a good result for them on Boxing Day. Have a feeling that festive hangover may continue into this one. Score prediction for me, going to go 3-1 Ipswich. I do fancy the home side to get a few goals in that one. Next up we head to the Den for Millwall up against Norwich. Two sides enjoying very different Boxing Days. A great result for Millwall as they beat QPR and put 6 points between themselves and the relegation zone, and they will probably fancy themselves to get something out of a Norwich side who did look second best for the vast majority of that game against West Brom. Of course the red card didn't help things and it was only the 1 goal that separated the two sides in the end, but for the majority of that match, even before the red card, it looked like Norwich were second best in that game, and we spoke about the importance of this period for Norwich, especially heading into January where they do play a lot of fellow promotion rivals, and those will be the matches which determine whether or not they'll be good enough to get over the line and into the top 6. And on showing from that West Brom performance, maybe they are still lacking 1 or 2 players. Score prediction for this game, I do think it'll be fairly tight. Honestly, think I'm sitting on the fence for it. Going to go for a 1-1 draw between these two. Next up we head to Deepdale for Preston up against Sheffield Wednesday. I have to admit I did not see that result or performance coming from Preston on Boxing Day, but I'll take it every day of the week. A 2-1 victory over Leeds. Yes, we were helped by the Meslier red card, but we still had to find the quality from within our our ranks to put 2 goals past them, and it really was Liam Miller making the difference on the afternoon. It was a sublime performance from him on that left-hand side, had Archie Gray on strings throughout the entire 90 minutes. I'm just hopeful now that we are able to build upon this, because we will revert straight back to type if we put in another subpar performance in this game against Sheffield Wednesday and end up on the losing side of it. With that being said, now seems like a decent time to be playing Wednesday. They had that bit of a lift after Roll came in, but they have now lost back-to-back matches. A defeat for them on Boxing Day now leaves the gap between themselves and safety at 9 points. Sheff Wednesday also will be without Bambo Diaby after he was shown a red card at the end of their game against Coventry. Shame we won't get to see him making his return to Deepdale this season. I do think this will be quite tight and definitely a different type of match than what we saw Preston going up against Leeds. Score prediction for me, why not? I'm going to back North End for back-to-back wins. Going to go 1-0 Preston in this game. Next up, we head to Rotherham up against Sunderland. Both teams picking up good results on Boxing Day. It was Rotherham with quite an unlikely win against Middlesbrough. Had a bit of luck on their side, maybe not to have given away that penalty and how wasteful Middlesbrough were in the final third, but sometimes you need that luck on your side, and most importantly, Rotherham managed to capitalise on it. We'll probably need a similar sort of game plan going into this one. I do think there are quite a few parallels we can draw between Sunderland and Middlesbrough, where both of them tend to create quite a few opportunities, but both have been fairly wasteful this season, so that could potentially play into Rotherham's hands if Sunderland aren't on their A game in the final third. Beale getting his first win on Boxing Day, much needed after how they were picked apart by Coventry in his opening game. Was quite a stretched game in the second half against Hull, but Jack Clark's bit of quality late on managed to win it for the away side. And do you know what? I think I am edging towards a Sunderland win in this one as well. Score prediction for me, going to go 2-1 Sunderland, which will be a good result. Watford up against Stoke is next up. Definitely not the best of Boxing Days for Watford. Overall, the form book has been really positive for them of late, but Bristol City obviously identified some weaknesses within that Villa and Ishmael side and managed to expose them. They'll be looking for a reaction in this game, but won't be easy against a Stoke side who do seem to have a new lease of life about them since the arrival of Steven Schumacher. 4 points from a possible 6 for Schumacher, a great performance on the road, taking apart Birmingham 3-1 on Boxing Day. Stoke headed into that game against Birmingham having failed to win any of their previous 7 matches, so yeah, that result there will do their confidence the world of good, especially over this period where there are so many matches coming thick and fast. Do think Watford will need a reaction from that game against Bristol City, but you can't rule Stoke out at the moment. Prediction in this one, going to go for an entertaining 2-2 draw. Could see that one being quite end-to-end. We then finish the weekend off with West Brom up against Leeds at the Hawthorns. Now, myself as a Preston fan, I obviously got to see Leeds up close and personal on Boxing Day, and have to admit, really disappointed. It was a massively lethargic performance from Daniel Farke's side. Even coming into the game, massively surprised he didn't make any changes to that 11, and after what was really a under par first half from Leeds, I was really surprised they didn't make any changes at half-time either. Yes, they weren't helped by that red card for Meslier, but I mean, he put himself in that stupid situation by putting his hand in Osmaich's face, and now Leeds will be without him for these next upcoming matches. The Baggies got a great result themselves over on Boxing Day, 1-0 against Norwich. Not the easiest game in the world, despite playing the majority of that up against 10 men, but all 3 points on the board is all that counts at the end of the day. And you know what? I wouldn't put it past West Brom from getting something against Leeds in this game. Really depends on which version of Leeds shows up in this one, and it does have to be said, their record all season on the road has been a little bit spotty. After losing that game against Preston at Deepdale, Leeds have now dropped points in over half of their away matches this season, which, if they want to bridge that gap between themselves and the top 2, is something they're going to need to sort out in this second half of the season. Generally speaking, they've been absolutely relentless at Ellen Road, but on the road is where they have come unstuck more often than not. I think Leeds have to improve from what they showed at Preston on Boxing Day. They have to be a bit more lively in the final third. In saying that, I wouldn't be surprised if they drop points here either. Score prediction for me, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw between these two. Well guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and do get your score predictions for the Friday matches in the comments down below. Plenty of football still to come over this festive period. Make sure to have your say about it in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next one.